Well, I think that it's extraordinarily unfortunate to suggest that the Russian people are not interested in freedom or independence or human rights. I think that's been a slander that a number of Western writers, including Anatol Lieven, have routinely engaged in, which is simply not true. If you tell people that you don't think that they want to be free, that's a good way to insult them. And I think it's wrong to say that. I also think it's wrong to suggest that Shevtsova and company are simply a puppet used to discredit liberalism. Do I think that some Russian liberals have done things that discredit liberalism? You bet. I mean, they haven't always behaved very wisely. But I don't think that's enough. I think the bigger question is, how do we see our long-term future? One of the problems that cuts across the argument you just mentioned between the so-called idealists and the realists has to do with a time dimension. If you say, what do we need in the next 6 months? Well, the fact is, the kind of cooperation we need in the next 6 months, we're not going to be able to change the culture that much. But if we do things that reinforce the culture, in the existing culture there, in the name of getting cooperation in the short term, then we will not be able to have long-term cooperation. We tend to forget that. Moreover, we tend to forget that the Russian Federation is a fundamentally unstable place. And it won't be stabilized until it has an effective state, and by effective state I mean a popular one that is subject to popular legitimation. This is not what they have. So my sense is that the argument is being cast in the wrong terms. It is, are there things that we need to work with Russia on right now? And what are the things we need to do to make sure we'll be able to do that a year from now, 5 years from now? I think that we ought to be worried about both of those things. I think the foreign policy argument in this city tends to become reduced to slogans, and that means you come into one or the other. In my view, we should never forget that the Russian people were responsible for the demise of the Soviet Union. It was the Russian people who were responding to messages not only from us but from people like Boris Yeltsin about the possibility of making choices, being able to travel freely, speak your mind, have an independent media, not be afraid after you speak. That wasn't something that just got imposed. That was something that the Russian people clearly wanted. And they thought it was something that would gain them entry into a bigger world. I think we have failed to take advantage of that by many things we've done as a country and the West generally. I think the Russian government has backed away and has mobilized the worst attitudes in the Russian people, not the best. So while I'm in favor of finding points of cooperation in the short term with even this group of people in Moscow, I don't think deciding to focus on them and apologizing away or giving up on all possibilities for democracy and freedom is a good idea. And I think people who suggest that the Russian people are not anymore interested in are not interested in democracy and freedom are engaging in far worse than what they say the Russian liberals are doing for Putin.